Students, welcome back to our biology sessions. So, continuing with our chapter, the excretory system, and this is the last slide of this chapter. What do we need to know in this last slide? The physical properties of the urine on this part, the physical properties of urine, what are the constituents of urine, then what are the abnormal constituents of urine. That means here we'll be understanding the normal constituents of urine. And what if some person is diseased? That means if the person is suffering from some UTI, urinary tract infection, what would be the composition of his or her urine? We will have to understand about the role of or the regulation of the urine output. That means the urine which has been excreted out of our body, who controls that urine output apart from the brain who gives the signal. We also have to study about osmoregulation, which is also one of the important function of urine. And lastly, we have to study about something called as artificial kidney. That means if one kidney fails, no doubt, by God's grace, we are being given the second pair, which can help us through the problem of excretion. But what if both the kidneys fail? How is a person going to manage life? The life can still be managed with the help of artificial kidney. Okay. So starting with the first part of the slide, that is the physical properties. What are the properties you have to learn? The first property is the color. Generally, the color of the urine is clear yellow, and you all know why, because there is a pigment called as urochrome, which is also one of the bile pigments that is present in the urine, which gives this color to the urine. Second property is volume. Generally, per liter, 1 to 1.5 liters of urine is being produced in a day. Okay. Now, this volume can vary from person to person. Okay, how and when, depending even on the weather conditions, right? pH is 5 to 8. Usually it is slightly acidic, that is, it falls in the range of 6. Now here even diet plays an important role. That means if a person is on heavy protein diet, now generally if you'll talk about chicken is a high protein diet meal. Okay, so that protein diet meal will be showing acidic pH of the urine, and vegetable diet meal will be showing alkaline pH of the urine. And how to test the pH? There are pH strips through which we can test the pH of the urine. Now, odor. There's no odor in the urine. Okay, so there's a faint smell ideally. Okay, but if you continuously stand in a place which is surrounded by this excretory product, definitely you will get a very strong smell of ammonium products. Okay, that urea, uric acid, all these products, they stink, they smell. Okay, so on standing for long hours, definitely you can get the bad odor from these products. And why is that so? That is because of the bacterial contamination from those substances. Specific gravity, it lies in the range of 1.003 to 1.035. Okay, so these are the physical properties you have to keep it in your mind. What are the constituents of the urine? The second important part of this slide. Now, generally, if you see in urine, 95% of the urine shows the presence of water, and rest 5% are nothing but the solid waste, which further consists of the organic and the inorganic matter. The organic matter further consists of urea, uric acid, creatinine, and other substances. Inorganic matter can include salts like sodium chloride, potassium chloride, ammonium salts, and various other salts can also be included. Okay, so this becomes the constituents. Your textbook is also showing the concentrations in gram per liter. Okay, this is the green box which is shown on page number 118, right? These concentrations are not important, and that's the reason I have just mentioned over here the names of the organic and the inorganic constituents. Okay, now this is the normal composition which is seen in every person's urine. What if there are some other substances which are seen apart from these chemicals? First important substance which can be seen is blood vessels. If a person shows blood in the urine, then the person is suffering from a disease called as hematuria. Okay, heme means blood cells. Okay, so hematuria is nothing but the blood passing out through the urine, and that is generally seen in the conditions of any of UTI. UTI means urinary tract infection. Any of the infection belonging to your urinary tract, that means either the kidneys or ureters or urinary bladder or the urethra. Any of the organ, if they are infected by bacteria or fungus, then the person suffers from hematuria. Okay. Apart from that, a person can also release out blood in the urine because of kidney stones. Okay, if the stones are being formed. Now, how are the kidney stones formed? That is generally because of excess deposition of calcium oxalate in the kidneys. Also, because of excessive deposition of uric acid in the kidneys causes kidney stones in the patient's body. Okay, and the third reason is tumors. So either of these reasons can cause hematuria in people. So releasing out blood vessels is not a normal thing not a normal chemical seen in the urine. Okay. Second is glucose. Students, you all must be thinking that glucose is a normal composition of urine. No. If glucose is seen in urine, a person is suffering from glycosuria. Excess glucose seen in the urine, then the person suffers from a disease commonly called as diabetes mellitus. Okay. Now you all must have heard about the disease called as diabetes. Now diabetes is a disease where the insulin production is not proper in the person's body, because of which the sugar level rises in the blood. But it's not only in the blood, but the sugar is also being released in the urine sample. Okay, sugar I meant by glucose is also being released in the urine sample. So here it has been said that diabetes mein there are two types. Okay. Now generally if you taste the urine, now when I say when you taste urine, nobody tastes urine. But in labs, how do you taste urine? It's not being tasted, it's being tested. Okay. Now there is a difference when I say taste and when I say test. It's been said that ants are being attracted to sweet urine. That is also one of the tests that detects whether the person is having glucose in the urine. Okay. In labs generally there are multiple tests. There are strips which can diagnose glucose in the urine sample. Okay. So when the person is having urine in the when the person is having glucose in the urine, the person is suffering from sugar diabetes, or the person suffers from diabetes mellitus. But when the person is releasing out excess of urine and the urine is tasteless, I repeat, when the person is releasing out excess of urine and the urine is tasteless, then the person is suffering from diabetes insipidus. Your textbook clearly mentions about this second condition of diabetes. When tasteless, it is due to much water in the urine, and this condition is called as diabetes insipidus. And ये क्यों होता है? Because there is insufficient hormone, that is ADH hormone. Insipidus का मतलब होता है tasteless. Again, my dear students, I would like to repeat When I'm saying sweet taste, when I'm saying tasteless, nobody is going to taste the urine sample. There are glucose strips which are being used to test the urine, the glucose in the urine sample, right? The third condition where albumin is seen in the urine. Now sometimes what happens is because of the infection, Bowman's capsule becomes more permeable to the big larger proteins, and because of this the proteins get filtered down the Bowman's capsule. We all know that in ultrafiltration glomerulus glomerulus get through, okay, it's only the liquid part that filters down, right? The heavy part of the blood, that is the corpuscles and the proteins, they remain on the glomerulus itself. But in this condition, due to high blood pressure, or sometimes people are stressed out, too stressed out. The stress can be because of multiple reasons, because of which the blood pressure automatically rises. This is one of the reason, one of the condition. Or because of the increased permeability, allowing the passage of the Bowman's capsule, what happens is, and these two conditions can arise, not the first condition, the second condition can arise. Why? Because of the bacterial infection. ये कंडीशन के वजह से क्या हो सकता है, the albumin protein releases out through your Bowman's capsule and it comes out in your urine. So when your urine is tested and if it shows the presence of albumin, and how is it diagnosed generally? Pain while urination. People suffer pain while urination. Why? Because albumin is a heavy molecule. So while excreting out this urine, people feel that pain while excreting out the urine. So this is the third condition. Fourth condition is bile pigments. Now due to anemia or hepatitis or liver cirrhosis, urine may also contain bile pigments. Now my dear students, you all must be thinking, why anemia or hepatitis or liver cirrhosis? Try to understand the breakdown of hemoglobin to bile pigments all happens in liver. Okay. So if these are the conditions, hepatitis is the condition where the liver is affected, jaundice is the condition where liver is affected, liver cirrhosis is the condition where liver is affected. जब liver is the organ where the formation of bile pigments takes place, जब liver ही काम नहीं कर रहा है तो bile pigments कैसे बनेंगे, right? And therefore the bile pigments are being released out in the urine. Okay. Now why do we take anemic condition? Anemic is a condition where the blood is very less in the body. Blood cells are less in the body. So it is obvious that blood cells, the quantity is any which way is less, then how will the breakdown of blood cells take place? Okay, and that therefore these all conditions are being included in this part. So next part of this slide talks about the regulation of the urine output. Now we all know that urine has been released out under the stimulus of the brain. Now apart from that, there is a hormone which also controls the excretion of urine, and that hormone is antidiuretic hormone, also called as vasopressin. I have not written the other name, but I'll just mention it here for you all. Okay, antidiuretic hormone, also called as vasopressin. Okay, so the concentration of the urine by the water reabsorption is controlled by ADH, right, which is being released by posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Now what exactly is the pituitary gland, where exactly it is located, that all you will study in detail in your chapter endocrine system. So I will not be explaining about this part over here. Just understand the pituitary is located in the brain, And this pituitary gland is divided into two parts, the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary is responsible for the secretion of this hormone ADH. This hormone, what is the role of this hormone? It regulates. What does it do? It regulates the reabsorption of the water from the kidney tubules. You'll remember that there are three important steps in the there are three important steps in the urine formation. Okay, what are those three important steps? The first one is ultrafiltration, second one is selective reabsorption, and third one is tubular secretion. So जो selective reabsorption का step है, that is being controlled by your ADH hormone. It's clearly said that if ADH secretion is less, the urine production will be high. Obvious है, right? If the water is not being reabsorbed by ADH, the urine output will be more, and that condition where the urine output is high is called as diuresis. There are certain substances which are responsible for this condition of diuresis, and those substances are called as diuretics, which include liquid diets, tea, coffee, alcohol, etc. There are two conditions which are being mentioned, gout and kidney stones, where it's been clearly said that uric acid is not clearly soluble in water, and because of which it gets deposited in our body. And where in our body? It gets deposited in the joints, leading to the condition called as gout. Not only that, when there is excessive uric acid produced in our body, and that happens with overconsumption of non-veg, that is meat mainly. Okay, so when there is excessive uric acid which is being deposited in our body along with the calcium oxalate crystals, what happens to them? They start forming small stones and they start getting deposited in our kidney, resulting in the formation of kidney stones. So these are the two conditions which can arise in people due to the excessive deposition of these toxic products in our body. Next part talks about osmoregulation. We know that the role of kidney is to remove the urea from the blood, right? That's the key role. But apart from that, the another important role of kidney is to regulate its composition. That is to maintain a balance between the water and the salts. And that maintenance of the balance, or that osmotic balance of the water, is called as osmoregulation. We all are aware of this fact that we urinate fewer times in summer as compared to winters, and the urine past is thicker. And I hope you all know about the reason behind it. Still, I've just mentioned the reason over here. The reason is that in summers we perspire more and the kidneys have to reabsorb, as in we sweat more, right? And the kidneys have to reabsorb more water from the urine, making it more concentrated. That's the reason. There's also mentioned over here about the case of people who suffer from cholera. Now here we all know that when people suffer from cholera, they what do they face? They have the patients undergo or they suffer from vomiting or watery bowels. Now when that is the condition, when people have loose motions issue, okay, a clear-cut indication is the intestine is not functioning, especially the large intestine. The large intestine is not able to reabsorb the water from the undigested food. And since the large intestine is not able to reabsorb the water, lot of water is being wasted from the body. Not only that, person, because of the infection is caused by a bacteria called as Vibrio cholerae. Since the person is infected, the patient continuously goes on vomiting. उसमें भी there is lot of water loss. Since there's so much of water loss, kidneys have to repay this water loss. And how do they do so? They cannot let the urine go out from the body. Why? Because they cannot even afford to release out that 1 or 1.5 liters of water from the body, because so much of water is anyways lost in the loose motions and in the vomiting, and because of which the urea and uric acid, they stay back in the body of the patients, which is even at a higher risk. Why? Because that is toxin, that is poison, and the person can even die because of storing of this poison in their body. So how can these patients be treated? We can only give them more supply of fluids, more supply of liquids, ORS, oral rehydration solution, right? So that their body can get that salts, they can get that water, and they can recover soon from this disease. Okay? So this was all about the part of osmoregulation. Last part of this chapter, which talks about artificial kidney. Now, here, my dear students, if one kidney is damaged, a person can still survive and continue to live with the help of other kidney. That means the toxins can still be removed with the help of other kidney throughout the life of that person. But the problem or the issue arises that when for some reason both the kidneys stop functioning, then what happens? Then the person can even die if there is no replacement of that kidney. Okay, the replacement is nothing but the artificial kidney with the help of the dialysis machine. As in, what is being done? The person is taken for the dialysis, and dialysis as in through the radial artery. Okay, the blood is being taken out, and from that blood, the urea, there's a dialysis machine. Injection is being injected through the radial artery of a patient through an arm, and from that radial artery the blood is being released out. Urea and other unwanted salts are being excreted out from that patient's body, and then that blood enters back. It is purified and then it is returned back to a vein of the same arm. Okay, and this is how the procedure happens. There is also something where people think of replacing their organ altogether, but honestly speaking, students, that doesn't work. Okay, where people say that you can just fix there are organ donors, okay, where you can artificially implant or fix a new kidney in your body, but most of the times, my dear students, that organ donations and to fix new organ in your body, that technology doesn't work most of the time. Why? Because your body does not accept the foreign organ completely, right? So it starts making antibodies against it, right? So this cases like this dialysis generally happens is repeated for about 12 hours twice a week. Okay, so that the purified blood keeps on circulating in the patient's body. Okay, that's it for this chapter. I hope this is a simpler chapter. For those who have already done this chapter, it was a quick revision for you all, and that's it for the chapter. We'll be meeting soon on Zoom for the discussion of the question answers. Thank you.